Hello guys, welcome along to All for United. It is a Pride of All Europe daily podcast. It's good to have you guys with us. I feel like we are all massively infected with international football at the moment, which is different to the type of infection we were all talking about this time last summer. I mean, a totally different infection that I'm insinuating as well to what some people might have had this time last summer. But still, let's move on, shall we, and chat a little bit about what's happened over the weekend, and especially yesterday. Loads of talking points. But before I start, of course, the Pride of All Europe daily podcast is in association with the Mystery Shirt Club. You can grab one of their Euro mystery shirt boxes for your dad in time for Father's Day this weekend. Get ready to thank me for this, guys, because I've got you an exclusive 15% off code. So you're welcome. Not only are you going to get a wicked present for your dad for Father's Day this weekend, but you're also going to get 15% off that price. Use the code BIGPOPPA15. Love that code. That's big POPPA 15. You can order online at themysteryshirtclub.com. And later on in the show, stay watching because at the end, I'm going to tell you how you can enter to win a mystery Euro shirt box for yourself. All the deets are coming up. First of all, wicked panel. Stu, Callum, Charlie, all on to chat with me this lunchtime. Grab your lunch. Let's chat about the Euros and the biggest talking points from the weekend. And I want to start on behalf of everyone on wishing Christian Eriksen all the best. Lowe's coming out now. It drove me mental that conspiracy mode kicked in as well over the weekend. It's like, come on. Like, look at what his wife's just had to look at. Look at what his family have just had to look at. Let's let the guy recover, and hopefully he does make a full recovery. But Stu, I want to quickly hit on Schmeichel's comments this morning. Of course, his son Kasper Schmeichel was there. He was, of course, in you could say the thick of it. He was consoling Christian Eriksen's wife on the touchline. I saw, and he said this morning that it's an interesting debate that people are saying that they didn't have to restart the game. According to Peter Schmeichel, UEFA threatened them with a sanction if they didn't restart it, because of fixture congestion. What do you make of these rumours, and what does that ultimately say about UEFA, Stu?
Yeah, unfortunately for me, the alarm bells started to ring when rumours surfaced that Eriksen actually FaceTimed the team from hospital and told them that they were to continue the game. Now, my other half, as you well know, is in the NHS. And there's absolutely no chance, if you've suffered the type of horrific trauma that Christian Eriksen suffered, you'd be FaceTiming anybody, let alone your teammates, to carry on playing football. And so the alarm bells started ringing for me. And so I am not surprised that UEFA kind of strong-armed the match to continue. I think anybody who knows anything about life in general, forget football, but life in general, when you've experienced something that horrific in your eye line, and bearing in mind, a lot of us saw the early stages on television and were absolutely shocked and bewildered as to what had gone on. And I can't imagine the Danish players for 1 second wanting to come back out on that pitch. So this is typical UEFA. This is typical politics. Whether there was pressures from sponsors, I don't know. But it just reaffirms the absolutely way that football puts itself into a bubble and takes a step away from reality and human decency. And that's what upset me the most. And so I'm glad Peter Schmeichel's come out. I would have no doubts that that's true. And it just shows to me, UEFA, it's all about money, 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 and power. And when somebody's life and somebody's family, and and everybody who was in situ on that day, globally, in their front rooms or in the pubs, was horrified. And I can still see the images now. And I was one. And I didn't tweet about it. I didn't tweet anything about it, actually. But I, for one, would have been, you don't play the game. You kind of do something, whatever it be, whether you grant them a point each. I don't know, but other teams would talk about fairness. But you shouldn't have played that game on that day.
Well, you look at the Iceland players' reaction when the team came back out. They didn't really know what to do. They obviously stood there applauding. Of course they do. But ultimately, you know, what do you do in that situation where you've got a rival team, you know you've got to go and play against again, and all these things are happening. Plus, when the Finland lad scored, he couldn't celebrate. There was no emotion there whatsoever for him. Callum, what do you make of the stuff that's come to light this morning? Obviously, you're not shocked. I don't think any of us are. But it's just not good enough, is it?
I actually didn't know that until you just told me. Because I was out. I actually missed the game. I literally found out a little bit later, like what the hell's happened. I did catch some of the footage, and I was shocked to see. I mean, the BBC should be ashamed of themselves, like absolutely ashamed of themselves. I see the Denmark players are getting a lot of credit for their humanity response of, you know, sort of forming a ring around Christian Eriksen so no one could see him, and then having to hold up a towel around him so that no one could see him. Well, we wouldn't have seen him if the media coverage cut to the studio or shoved on an episode of EastEnders or something like that. They were zooming in on it, for God's sake. Apparently they cut to Christian Eriksen's wife at one stage, who was crying her eyes out.
Yeah.
Like, what the seriously? Whoever made that decision wants sacking. Genuinely.
Can I just make a note on that? I don't know how much of that is a BBC or Universal broadcaster, so I just want to make that note, because for a lot of these big tournaments, they have a Universal broadcaster that basically the images are streamed worldwide. It always happens in Formula One. Like there's one stream, one feed, one set of camera operators, and they are basically in control of the producing it. So maybe potentially it's even UEFA who are in charge of producing the content and the programming and streamed out. Yeah, I just want to make that note. Sorry, I know you're going in.
That wouldn't surprise me either. It wouldn't surprise me either, to be honest. But I mean, the BBC could have made the executive decision to cut back their stream to the studio, so they can't be exempt from any criticism. Any broadcaster that did that should be exactly told that was wrong. I've got a couple of points up here. So it is saying that Danish players criticised the decision to carry on the game. So UEFA did tweet out, due to consulting both teams, they want to carry on. I can't imagine that was the right decision at any stage. From the footage that I've seen, he literally just went to control the ball and fell down. And apparently at one point they lost him. He was gone, according to the team doctor. Effectively, they didn't just see some, like, you know, forget that it was the friend and the teammate. They just saw another human being lying, effectively probably lifeless on the floor at one stage. That's not going to leave your head in a hurry, is it? So, you know, but I think it probably boils down to one thing for UEFA: postpone a game, all that money goes, you know, profit over person. I was sort of the only way I could see what happened was I had to go onto iPlayer and reverse it back, because I had no idea what happened. I just saw everyone. I thought it might have been like a leg break or something like that. And then when everyone was saying no, it was possible heart attack or cardiac arrest, or another thing I did bother. So scrolling through a couple of hours later on Twitter, I did spot. I mean, they're starting to say, well, he didn't have his COVID jab, because people were starting to say that maybe coronavirus was a hoax and all that. I saw people tweet that he'd been confirmed dead because Wikipedia said so. Like, it's just not the time, is it? Like, for God's sake.
No.
I mean,
and on that, the fact that they had to as well, you were saying there about the way that the players reacted, the fact that they had to shield that screen, the players around him, like ultimately they should have surely some movable screens or something just in case something happens. Like, you're telling me they've got these defibrillators and they're happy for a stadium for the people to see someone potentially being resuscitated like that in the open space. Like,
the thing is, the annoying thing about that, Ben, is, and it's going to sound quite corny, but UEFA Champions League is probably a similar thing, where it's one stream, it's broadcast worldwide, stuff like that. When a model in the 2019 Champions League final ran onto the pitch in barely any clothing, we still somehow managed to move the cameras away from that. When an old man runs on the pitch naked, we move the cameras for that. So it's not a case of, oh, it's a universal stream, blah, blah. They can do it. They chose not to yesterday. Saturday. Sorry,
it was ESPN. Carl. Yeah, it was ESPN.
Yeah,
the lead broadcaster.
Yeah, they're the broadcaster. You're absolutely right, and I have to choose my words carefully here because a streaker of any age isn't news, is it? It's kind of it's not news. It's just somebody trying to do it to get their self on TV or whatever.
Yeah, it's someone being silly trying to get a laugh.
I don't know how to articulate what I want to say. Yeah.
No, you're not wrong. Like, but ultimately as well, the other phrase of that, how awful is that they've shown those images because it's an action point, there's something going on, the headlines within it. What if the worst case scenario actually happened off the back of that and they have just freaking broadcast that?
Yeah.
Like the way they have. Like a poor decision was, I agree with you, Cal, poor decision was made yesterday by someone somewhere. I agree with you. I think independent territories could have taken their own stance and cut away. 100%. Why they didn't do that, I don't understand, because ultimately the commentators as well and the pundits in that situation who are commenting on the pictures also have no frigging idea of what's going on. So you've got like drivel from Genus and Lineker not saying anything. Just cut it. Like, go somewhere else, because this is a serious situation. And you know, someone's son, someone's grandson, someone's husband. It's just not right for. Yeah, I do agree. It's not right. Anyway, let me come over to Charlie quickly. Charlie, I wanted to ask on this. So obviously we saw the game, we saw what happened. Obviously Denmark did go back out onto the pitch. Obviously, I didn't actually think when they went back out, Denmark actually played too badly. There was just no end product, so to speak. And I think ultimately that goes to show, doesn't it, that potentially the head was in a different place. They weren't interested in playing out the rest of that game. And it's not fair on the players, is it? It's a big tournament. It's a big chance for them to play some really competitive football. The fact they're made to go out and play that game, it wasn't on, was it, Charlie?
No, you're right, Ben. I think you could see how it affected the Denmark players. Obviously, they missed a penalty, didn't they, as well? Højbjerg. And I think Roy Keane said it. I saw what Roy Keane said, actually, and he was right. I know it doesn't really matter. All that mattered was that Eriksen survived at the end of the day. But what Roy Keane said was, if Eriksen was on the pitch, he would have actually taken that penalty. So that was just an interesting thing that Roy Keane said, actually. But you could see with the goal that Schmeichel let in as well, it wasn't like Kasper Schmeichel. He normally might have saved that in a normal circumstance. And, it was just... You just felt sorry for the Denmark players because, it was a game they were big favourites for, and if something like that's happened to happened to one of your teammates, you're just not you're not really bothered about what's happening on the pitch. Your thoughts aren't there. Your thoughts are with your friend, with your teammates. So you have to feel sorry for Denmark, really. But yeah, I'm not surprised with the UEFA's Callum and Stu have said. They're all about money, all about greed. Everyone's gone on about, the Super League. Everybody wants we had a real big row over that. We managed to stop it. But actually, you got the UEFA Champions League, the UEFA Europa League that's going to stand. So, I think we need to try and make a stance against UEFA, because you can see from today that from the other day on Saturday, it just proved again they're all about money and greed. So, I think there's going to be a big uproar coming, and again with the TV broadcasting, I don't think BBC were fully in charge of what they were showing, but they definitely could have cut back to the studio. I think it was. I was actually, as Callum was as well, I was out at the time, and I looked at my Twitter feed and I saw some prayer emojis with Eriksen, and I thought, oh, what's happened here? And then I had to scroll back on the iPlayer to see what was going on. But they obviously didn't cut back, because they knew people would tune in to see what's going on and keep watching, because so that's all they're bothered about, the viewers, the money and the greed. So yeah, it sort of showed, unfortunately, what the state of football is like nowadays, all about the money.
I do want to move on from this. I want to make two more points. Is that ultimately for me, UEFA have a duty of care as the lead tournament organisers, and that isn't on. If that happens in a festival, everyone goes home. If that happens in a workplace, everyone goes home. Ultimately, I don't even think it would have been drastic for them to have stopped the games for the rest of the day after what happened yesterday, because that is huge. Secondly, all right, 3 points. Well done to all the medical team. Well done to the ref as well. Well done to the players on the pitch who quickly came over. And obviously, thank God there was a defib machine there because otherwise this could have ended up in a completely different. It could have ended completely differently. And I'm just thankful that Eriksen is now stable. There's one thing that I do want to say. And I don't really push petitions often, but I have always said that education is great for children and education's great at school. However, I feel like there needs to be more life skills within schools and within education, especially when you're a teenager in walks of life. Once you turn 13, 14, and you're going on, you need to learn some basic things. You need to learn how to look after yourself. You need to learn how to look after others and the meaning of right and wrong. There's a petition out there at the moment that I'm going to share from my personal account if you want to go and check it out. And basically the petition is for the government to speak about adding CPR, basic life support. And I don't really agree with defib training, but ultimately it kind of fits in to national curriculum for 14 plus. I really do believe there is a place in education for this, because you never know what is going to happen in life. You never know what's going to happen around the corner. And I personally never got that at school. And I would love to know what to do if something like what happened on that football pitch happened at my 5-a-side football on a Wednesday, my 8-a-side on a Thursday, but I wouldn't have a clue. So ultimately sharing a picture is great, but there needs to be a bigger conversation about this. And I will leave that there. Stuart, I completely agree with you. There was a big push after what happened to Fabrice Muamba. And I now know a number of sports centres local to me that all have defib machines, which is great, but they're not always manned. So ultimately, who's going to use them? Who's going to help? So yeah, 100% Stuart, I'm with you. Hello to John as well. Hello to everyone watching. Hello to Suzanne. If you're not on our YouTube channel, come over. We're going to tell you how you can win a mystery Euro shirt box a bit later on, guys. Thank you for taking part in that conversation as well. I know it's a tough one, but let's move on to England yesterday. I've got a controversial opinion on the England game yesterday. I wasn't as ecstatic with the performance as everyone else was. I'm sorry for being Mr. Unpopular Opinion. I personally think that Croatia side that we faced yesterday is a completely different Croatia side that we faced in that semi-final a few years back. It's a lot more aging. If you look at Luka Modric, still a special player, don't get me wrong, but he has had a really off season for Madrid this year. He is not the same Luka Modric. Stu, I know Brozovic is your guy, or potentially isn't anymore. I have never been convinced that he's even better than Kovacic, let alone, a fantastic player. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's fantastic. And Kovacic, for me, again, in and out the Chelsea side all the time. I think ultimately England yesterday cruised through parts of that game and could have done more to really cement the win. But a win is a win, Stu. But what was your thoughts on the performance?
No, I'm with you, really. A win's a win. I was totally underwhelmed. I was absolutely, I couldn't quite believe what I was watching from Croatia at times. I've never seen them as pedestrian as what they were, but we were equally pedestrian. Like everybody else, I raised a few eyebrows at Trippier at left back. I raised a few eyebrows at the non-inclusion of Grealish, but I was absolutely delighted to see Calvin Phillips flourish. And I know Callum will have his say on this one, but Declan Rice was pivotal to that. The way that Declan Rice shielded our back four, he allowed Calvin Phillips that momentum and that movement, that space. And he was absolutely dynamite, was Phillips. Dynamite. I thought Trippier was half decent. I know he's not a left back, he's a right back. And why would you leave Shaw out the equation? But I thought Trippier was half decent. Other than that, I thought we were pedestrian. Foden was played out of position on the right. I know he had his strike in the first 10 minutes, but I didn't think he could get his hold of the game. I didn't think he'd be influential. I thought he brought Rashford on a bit too late. Again, not bringing Grealish on, I thought was a mistake. But you're absolutely right. Brozovic so disappointed me because I have seen him play at a much higher level than what he played. And Kovacic probably, I think you're again right. I've got to agree with you. Was their man of the match. I thought Kovacic was absolutely brilliant. Croatia were laboured. Croatia, I couldn't work out whether they were tired or whether they were just disinterested. It was a very strange game of football. But what I've always said about tournament football is your first game is it's a bit controversial. Is your warm-up game. That's the game that beds you in for the rest of the tournament. And it does sometimes take teams time to kind of eke their way in. But our problem is we've dispatched Croatia, which is great. We're going to go into an absolute minefield against Scotland on Friday. The Scots, if the Jocks win today, the old sweaty socks, if they win today, they're going to be absolutely bang at it on Friday because they know a draw is likely to take them through. So we're in a bit of a dangerous situation with what happens with the Czech Republic and Scottish match today. Our group has suddenly become very, very interesting over one lackluster performance. But I did say on the show, I think, Ben, on our first show, I did say I think whoever wins out of Croatia and England will probably win the group. And I'll stand by that. But yeah, really disappointed. And can somebody tell me why Sancho wasn't in the 23? Do we know?
I think he's carrying a knock, from what I heard.
Well, I heard that he didn't have a knock, and him and Chilwell were just left out. I think ultimately it was down to the fact that neither of them had been with the England squad for long because Sancho was quite ill. He played obviously a little bit in that last friendly, and Chilwell played the Champions League final. I think he wanted to go with legs. That he basically picked the same squad, bar obviously the few that weren't in the Euro squad, that played our first friendly. If you actually go back and have a look. So the partnerships were sort of there. Let me come over to you, Callum, on this. And by the way, can I just say, Stuart, yeah, I do agree. We controlled the game. I don't think we ever looked like conceding, which isn't good because we definitely haven't got a really reliable defence in there, if you know what I'm saying, in terms of we haven't got our best defender playing. And I do agree, Croatia were disappointed. Ultimately, I think England could have made more of a statement yesterday. Just some stats I've plucked up. Average age of Croatia's squad is 27.3. That's the 13th youngest in the tournament. And average caps are 34.4 per player, which is the 5th most. What I liked yesterday, Callum, is we did look quite seasoned in the way we played. Putting in mind, there are quite a few players in there that weren't experienced within tournament football. But the shock selections, Phillips, maybe you would say Mings. I think he came in and done a really, really good job. Foden on the right as well. I sort of did, we tried to play too much through Sterling and Foden when we should have played through Kane, interlinking off of Sterling and Foden in the opposite way. The one time we did that was when Phillips got the ball and managed to find Sterling and we scored. The only time in the game we did it. But Trippier at left back, what did you make of Southgate's selection? Did you get it right, Callum, or are you still a bit mystified?
At no point did I say that was the wrong decision. I thought that was absolutely perfect. I never said that was stupid. I'm not being fun, but I don't think anyone saw that. I thought, yeah, that's how I picked the team. But honestly, you kind of got to give Southgate credit. Trippier really nullified the threat of them. Did brilliant at left back considering he was out of position. I've just read that Luke Shaw has pulled his tendons in his wrist or something, and it's the equivalent in football of a dead leg, really, isn't it? So I don't understand why they use that as an injury. But I mean, we weren't exciting. Probably underwhelming, maybe a little bit too harsh. It wasn't the same Croatia team that beat us in 2018. That still haunts me because the thing is we should have won that one as well. So there was at no point in my mind did I think we weren't the favourites. We should have won that game. We probably could have scored a couple more goals. Probably should have done, to be honest. I think the fact that Foden was pulled out to the right wasn't the worst idea. I mean, it created space for Calvin Phillips to exploit, and obviously they tried it a few times in the first half, but. To try and pass it through to Kane or Sterling, and then in the second half it eventually worked. I can only comment on about up until 57 minutes on the game. I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
In the Euros, the fever pitch across the country, and you fell asleep.
Get him off, Ben. Get him off.
Yeah, I fell asleep. My hungover self.
This is the full screen stream of shame. There it is.
I fell asleep. I was a little hungover and I ended up missing the rest of the game. So I woke up shitting myself that we'd lost. But I saw it. I woke up with Roy Keane on punditry and it said 1-0 England. I was like, right, that'll do.
Well, thanks for your insights, man. I really appreciate it. It's always great to have you on the show. Always good.
Yeah.
More of this.
I mean, from what I see in the first half and that little bit in the second half, I didn't think we were amazing. I didn't think we were bad. I could see there was a kind of game plan. I wouldn't want to see Trippier at left back permanently. I think maybe with a slight injury to Shaw, maybe it was more of a precaution.
Could we hang on Trippier just a second? Sorry to butt in. Here's my thing with Trippier. I thought he played well, nothing to argue against, but I don't think that he played so good that I wouldn't go with a natural left back in the next game. But ultimately,
I think we didn't because of that slight injury to Shaw, and he probably didn't want to take any chances. I personally think Southgate had half a head on the Scotland game on Friday. As easy as bad of a team as Scotland probably are, and we are overwhelming favourites.
That'd be clipped up.
You know what I mean? But we will be though, won't we? It's typical England. We'll be favourites for a lot of the games that we play. But you know, it's a derby, and Scotland will be well up for this game on Friday night. So I think that'll be a tougher game than the Croatia one. So I think. I'm really excited for that Scotland game because
is it 50 odd years? 50 odd years. How long is it since the last Euros?
No,
23. 23. Sorry, not
26.
23, yeah.
96. Yeah,
98.
No.
Was it last Euros? Was it? I can't remember the last Euros. I know they were in the World Cup in '98, but I was only 2, so I don't even remember it. So
it might be 96. 25 years. Is that about right?
It was 96. Yeah, we beat them, didn't we? It was the last
Suzanne will tell us straight in a minute anyway in the live chat. She'll tell us off.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure to be fair, but yeah, I'm well up for that. What is it? 8 o'clock kickoff on Friday night. That'll be I don't know whose decision that was, but that's going to be a bit of a crazy one. I think for both countries. You know, I think we're both renowned for drinking too much alcohol, so I think and Scotland definitely with all the iron brews and special brews that they have, but yeah, a good game. I think we got it half right against Croatia. We did the job. 1-0 will do us, and we'll probably go win the group. Like I think Stu said, you know, whoever won that game probably would have won the group. But there's still a couple of games to go, so we'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Just an interesting tweet I thought I'd bring to attention. Someone's tweeted Howard Nurse saying Sancho then with a question mark, and he has responded with, yep.
Oh.
So we'll wait and see what develops today with Jadon Sancho.
What was that? Sorry, Ben.
So someone's tweeted Howard Nurse with Sancho then, question mark, and he has replied with, yep.
I don't know who is he.
Howard Nurse is one of the most reliable journalists out there by a mile, yeah, especially with United. But yeah, 23 years, Suzanne's just said. There we go. Cannot wait. Right, Charlie, let me come over to you. Just final thoughts on that England performance. You went with Rashford down the middle in the end as well. Good to see Rashford get a rest/run out.
Yeah, I was glad Rashford didn't start because I've been tweeting a lot about Rashford recently. I don't really think he should be going to the Euros, but if he is going to go, because he has gone, he should play a bit part role. I think just coming on as an impact sub. I think that's best for him. But yeah, I was perhaps a little bit more impressed than the rest of you guys. I just thought that Trippier played at left back. I think that was a tactical move because I think if you actually watch the game back, I think Southgate wanted both of his fullbacks to not go too high. I think if you watch the game, Walker and Trippier very rarely overlapped. I think Walker maybe a bit more than Trippier, but they very rarely overlap the wingers. And I think that was a tactical ploy from Southgate just to keep it tight. So I thought Trippier did okay. I think Shaw should probably come in for the Scotland game, or you'll probably pick Chilwell because I think he prefers Chilwell. But yeah, Phillips was the man of the match. I think. I think a lot of people think they should. I wouldn't change Phillips and Rice for Scotland game. I'd keep it the same. I wouldn't change that partnership.
Yeah, I would too. I think you're right there, mate.
I agree, mate.
Phillips was he got the assist for the goal. I mean, people think he's a defensive midfielder. He was probably the most creative player for England in the game. He was fantastic, I thought. So the idea that we can't play two holding midfielders, he wasn't even a holding midfielder. He went higher.
He was
Rice stacked.
yesterday.
Rice really protected the back four well. I thought I tweeted about Sterling because in the first half, Sterling made 3 or 4 really good runs and movements, and Sterling lacks that final finish. Sterling's finishing is quite poor, but I think Sterling is probably England's best winger off the ball in terms of his runs in behind and his movement in behind. And he made 3 or 4 runs in the first half, and he didn't score. It didn't end up in a goal. And I think is it James on All for United? James,
yes.
I think the new presenter, James. He tweeted me saying, he replied to me saying, you know, he lacks that final finish. And I said, I know, but just wait in the second half. If he keeps making that run, it'll eventually end up in a goal. And it did in the end because he made that run again and Phillips found him. So I think Sterling, although he lacks that final finish against Croatia yesterday, he was the right choice to make those runs in behind. Perhaps not against Scotland when they're going to be a lower block. I think I'd definitely start Grealish, but
don't you agree then, Charlie? That's what works with England. When you've got the setup that we have, Kane needs to come deep, link up play. Then you need to get Foden and Sterling as inside forwards, getting in behind. And I think that's what Sterling does really well. I think ultimately Foden isn't as good at doing that because he likes to, so to speak, connect the play as much as Kane does. And ultimately then what you're going to have is two players in the same position, only one person running off. So you're really, so to speak, you're really impacting the amount of opportunities you've got for chance output. I think England need to have Jadon Sancho on that right wing because he will do the opposite job to what Sterling does. He will make the same moves and runs, even if that is at the slight detriment to Phil Foden. Ultimately, then you've got to make a decision. Well, does then Foden become an impact player? Is he in rotation with Mount? Or do you drop one of Phillips and Rice so that you've got two more creative players in the middle there? It's all about space, all about the runs. You're not going to get the best out, like you said there, you're not going to get the best out of Sterling. He can do that 4 or 5 times a game and he will get you goals, right? Ultimately, if he's got the chances. But you need to play to those strengths. You can't play to the weaknesses. And I think that's, I suppose, England didn't do that enough, I don't think, especially in the first half against Croatia. Sorry, carry on. Yeah, that's.
No, I actually think you're right there, Ben. Sorry to butt in, Charlie, but I think Ben, you're absolutely right, and that's what I was saying about Foden. I think it was an experiment that didn't really pay off, and I think Foden should become a bit of an impact player. A little bit when you think when Greenwood started off a couple of years ago, was as he became an impact player and he was dangerous when he came on, he'd score goals. I think Foden's got that. One thing I was impressed with, though, and I don't know whether you all picked it up, which you all would have, is Jude Bellingham, when he came on, added a real
amazing
drive.
Amazing.
As soon as he came onto that pitch, he was at it. He lifted the spirits of the team. And I just thought, again, he's going to have to be impact, though. I don't think you could start Jude Bellingham. I think Charlie's got it absolutely spot on. I think we need to keep the bulk of that 11. Because I don't think Maguire's going to be anywhere near it yet, is he? Until perhaps the knockout phase. I would say.
I would say if Maguire is back in, though, I would. And I'm sorry to say this, Phillips was brilliant yesterday, but I would play Bellingham over Phillips.
Would you?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Bellingham's creativity is far superior to Phillips, and also what he can do is he can get stuck in and sort of leave Rice to mop up. When you've got it's like we always talk about with United. You know, ultimately, you could afford to have a bit more of a creative player in there, especially in the one-off knockout games. In the group, maybe you'd be a bit more conservative. But if we're going and playing the likes of France, I want to see Bellingham in that midfield next to Mount or next to Foden, because I think ultimately, if you've then got Maguire at the back, you've got enough sturdiness defensively to be able to aid your side, and then you've got the platform for Bellingham to drive, and also that press, by the way, that England performed against Croatia. If you put Bellingham in that side, Croatia don't go over the halfway line ever. They just don't. Bellingham's pressing is unreal.
Oh, he's the best. Yeah, he's the best.
I think though what you can add to that though as well, especially if Maguire comes back in, is in a sense Maguire's kind of his own little bit of a creative outlet because he's such a like his ability to bring the ball out from the back and find little pockets of space with his passing. I think he's done it for United quite a few times. It's such an underrated part of his game. So when he picks the ball up at the back, you can find those players so you can sort of sacrifice that slightly more conservative midfielder by adding that bit more creativity in the Jude Bellingham. Actually, no disrespect to Calvin Phillips, he was brilliant yesterday.
He was.
I really wouldn't have any qualms if he did stay in the side. But if you were to change it and Maguire was back, you could possibly see the reasoning as to why Phillips would be dropped for a Bellingham or someone like that. So I wouldn't be surprised. One player I don't want to see is Jordan Henderson. The guy's clearly not fit.
I agree.
I do not want to see him in the starting 11 at all.
And I also believe that Declan Rice showed actually how good he is in that role the other day. And I don't think you take Rice out for Hendo. Let me also make one more point. As we're giving credit where it's due, Tyrone Mings, I thought, was fantastic in that back line yesterday. And the reason why I say that is we were hitting on the positives that Maguire does for England and for Manchester United. Tyrone Mings made more chances yesterday for England than both Kane and Foden. And I know it was a tight game, but ultimately, at least he showed he's got the minerals to be a like-for-like replacement for Harry Maguire. And I think that is so important. So fair play. He's never played at such a high level before, Mings. And I thought he played really, really well. I think he sorted in nicely there next to Stones. And that takes to, as you would tell us, and we don't have time now, to be able to be chucked into a defence like that in a big tournament next to someone you've not really ever played next to before takes a lot of intelligence that on the football pitch and a lot of studying. It's a fair play to me. Yeah, fair play to him. Yeah. Sorry, Charlie, we sort of took your conversation and ran with it, mate. Do you want to make any more final points on the England game?
Maybe just one thing about Grealish. You know, everyone. I've got a close friend to me who's a mad Villa fan, and he's been telling me for a couple of years that Grealish is it. And at the start, about a year and a half ago, I was like, oh, he's a good player. But now everyone's starting to notice, I think, how good Grealish actually is when they're watching him so often. But people need to realise that this is a whole tournament. Grealish doesn't. Everyone's going mad that Grealish didn't start yesterday. He's got many games, probably better suited games for him coming up, where we're going to have more possession, more of the ball. And Gareth's going to have to utilise his squad. These players have been playing for a long time, non-stop. A lot of them in Europe, deep into Europe. There's not going to be many players who are going to play every 90 minutes, perhaps apart from Pickford, maybe Stones, But I think a lot of maybe Kane as well. But I think a lot of players there is going to be a lot of, that you get 5 subs in every game. So there's going to be a lot of substitutions, rotation around. And Grealish, I don't think he was the right option for yesterday. I know it's easy to say, when now Sterling scored the goal, but I think the way that Harry Kane plays, as Ben said, dropping in, receiving the ball, and then we need a runner in behind to run in behind and stretch the defence. I think there'll be other games for Jack Grealish to feature, definitely.
I completely agree with that. And also that just goes back to the conversation we had at the very start, brought it full circle, that Croatia have a lot of experienced players within the middle of the park. We didn't want to congest that too much, which is why you beautifully hit on Sterling running off and finding space between the two centre-backs, Kane coming deep and linking it. So, I think that all naturally sort of brings it back to what the game plan was. And from what Callum said, maybe Southgate does deserve some credit. He got it right yesterday, and maybe we've got to trust him moving forward in this competition to bring it home. Right, very, very quickly, because we're running massively over, I just want to hit on a couple more talking points, and that is today's game. We've spoken a bit about Scotland, so we'll just say, hopefully, do you know what? I will say it. I do hope Scotland or the Scottish people get a good day today and can celebrate their team positively being back in such a major competition. So best of luck to Scotland. However, that luck will be withdrawn come Friday. Suzanne, I know you mentioned a lot of positive vibes today from people towards Scotland. Do not expect that Friday. All right, that's all I'm going to say. Feel free to join us, but you will not be getting that on Friday. And of course tonight, Sweden take on Spain, or Spain take on Sweden. De Gea, Stu, are we expecting to see him start for Spain, because he hasn't in recent friendlies, has he?
No, I don't know really, and to be honest, I'm not actually quite sure what to expect from Spain, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know what their strengths are really. In fact, for international teams, for me, Spain have kind of dropped off the radar in recent months, and I haven't really, for whatever reason, I don't quite know why, I haven't paid as much attention to Spain as you had with Italy's winning run of 26, 27 matches, or what Holland are doing with their rebuild under De Boer, or how dangerous Belgium are likely to be. You know what I think about the French first 11? I think it's absolutely frightening. And yet, me and the lads were talking about it while watching the game yesterday, and we were doing a bit of a sweepstake. And I got Spain to win the tournament as my sweepstake. And the lads are saying, "What do you think of that?" And I'm like, I have absolutely no idea. I've got no idea where I could place Spain in this tournament. So from a point of view of Manchester United, I'd love to see De Gea start, and I'd love to see him have a great tournament, because obviously at the moment his future's a little bit up in the air. Most of us are kind of the belief that he will move on in the summer, but if he has a great tournament, a lot of us will say, come back, come back, come back. So from that point of view, yeah, I'd love to see him have a good tournament. But as for Spain as a whole, apologies, guys. A little bit like Callum.
Who knows?
I've fallen asleep for 6 months because they just have dropped off my radar completely.
Well, it's a complete changing of the guard, isn't it? Like Box says here as well. I've just read that De Gea hasn't played in the last 9 games for Spain, and there's he's number 2, but he's also in friendlies recently has been replaced by Fernandes, isn't he? As well, it's like second choice Madrid keeper. I don't know, but I'm with you still. I don't know what to expect from Spain. Although I do feel like they've hit a cheat code, Callum. They've managed to get the Port to declare his nationality as Spanish right before the Euros, so he's coming straight into the Spain side. That is like pressing a cheat button, isn't it, on Football Manager or something? But just a bit. Quality defender. But no Sergio Ramos in this tournament. Is it going to be weird watching Spain without Sergio Ramos at the back?
Yeah, it's going to be proper. I mean, not just Sergio Ramos. There's no Real Madrid players in it, is there?
No.
I'm a little bit like Stu. I'm really. They're a bit unpredictable, Spain. I think they're probably a bit like maybe us. I think you're probably looking at maybe a quarter final with them. They don't overwhelm me. They don't particularly frighten me like they did once. I think maybe they are in a little bit of a rebuilding stage as well. So yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because usually you talk about Spain being up there with the favourites, possibly even winning it, but I can't look past. I think Portugal will probably win it again. I think we've always looked at Portugal's start. I know they've got a really tough group, but they start their campaign against Hungary. So if they go back to them, then the third place spot might be good enough for them. With Spain, I wouldn't be surprised if like a little bit of a smaller team knocked them out. To be honest, I haven't got too much faith in them as I have in previous years to actually go and take the tournament by storm. I don't know, maybe it's a bit of a changing of the guard. Maybe it is, obviously they dominated football for a few years, and I think maybe now it's time for, I think it's probably France's or Portugal's time to do the same.
Do you know, looking at their keepers, Cal, right? They've got De Gea, obviously we know. They've got Sanchez from Brighton and Simon from Athletic Bilbao.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Do you remember a few years ago when the talent that they had was just... Like Arteta couldn't get a look in and Ander Herrera couldn't get a look in.
Yeah.
Now you're taking goalkeepers from Brighton. It just feels like the team has slightly filtered away a bit, and that little bit of a goal generation has just come to an end for them. I can't comment too much because obviously I'm not Spanish and I'm not an expert on the team, but from looking from the outside, you wouldn't be particularly as frightened or as worried about them as you have been in previous years. I mean, they're not taking any Real Madrid players. It almost felt like a bit of a we don't need you, when really they probably don't. Like Ramos, there's absolutely no doubt that Ramos should be there. I don't understand why he isn't. I feel like there's been a bit of a falling out or some kind of conflict somewhere, but I think we'll just they're a very unpredictable team. I mean, they'll either bloody win it or get knocked out in the last 16. I couldn't. There's such an unpredictable side to see what will actually happen with them, and not just for the Euros, but even for the World Cup next year. I don't see them being anything too special. But I could be wrong.
Do you want me to let you guys into a little secret? I've just put a bet on them not to make it out of group stage. Box put quite a few young players for Spain: Eric Garcia, Ferran Torres, Olmo, and Ozabayo, who also plays for Real Sociedad, doesn't he? In the Europa League. Who again, but I know young Box, of course, and young talents we have to wait and see. But ultimately, Eric Garcia hasn't played for City all freaking season because of this whole contract dispute. Ferran Torres has been on and off. Is like a hot and cold water tap. Because he hasn't got a lot of game time. He's been feeding into the squad. Olmo, again, a young talent. You can't put everything on his shoulders. He plays for Leipzig now, doesn't he, Olmo?
He does.
He hasn't impressed me at Sociedad. I see what you're saying. But I also think a big part of this as well, Callum, potentially where the Spain was so good because of the commodity between that Barcelona that Barcelona 5, 6, 7 players that were always within the Barca squad, and they had a certain identity of playing that always slightly crossed over to the Spanish national team. And now they've got a coach who's trying to, obviously Luis Enrique, former Barca, but trying to implement a style of play in less time with less able players, of which the majority are young, it's really tough, isn't it? They're going to be interesting to watch, really interesting to watch. And
there's only one Barcelona player in the squad.
Yeah, as well, yeah. Well, the Spanish are shite now anyway, isn't it? Like,
did you say Eric Garcia's gone?
Yeah,
he's got to Barcelona.
And
Saul
Miguel.
He's literally barely played this season.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't even know if he has played.
Yeah.
Picking him, that is. See what I mean?
That's the baffling thing. And they're up against Sweden.
Two Barcelona players. Sorry, Pedri's in as well, isn't he? Busquets and Pedri.
I get really young Pedri. He's played a handful of games for Barcelona. And Busquets is literally on his last legs. I mean, yes, he's got it all up there, but ultimately they're playing a side today in Sweden who have got some, again, really experienced players, but also some young players who can turn up. Forsberg, Isaac is a handful. Their centre forward. I think he's one to watch this tournament, by the way. Isaac,
Real Sociedad, isn't he?
Yeah, his Real Sociedad as well was really good against us. And of course, Charlie, sorry, you've already put the money on, haven't you? Lindelof to win the best defender of the tournament.
I actually think Spain. I've just been looking at the group and everything. You know, if England win their group, they get a much tougher run. If England comes second in the group, they come second. They play against the second team in Spain's group. And if you look at Spain's group, it's Spain, Sweden, Poland, and Slovakia. So you'd expect to play somebody like Poland, Sweden, Slovakia stage. So just going back to the point on England, maybe,
Poland are no joke, though. I fancy Poland at the moment to maybe get
Poland with Lewandowski, I think.
Yeah.
I think Spain, I still think Spain will win the group. I think Spain have still got some very good players. I think you've got like Morata, Pau Torres from Villarreal, Laporte, Olmo, Busquets. They're still. You've got Thiago from Liverpool. I think Spain, if they come out, if they win the group, Spain, they play a third team from one of the other groups as well.
Mm.
So that could be if they win their group, they could be get a nice run into the quarters. So I think Spain are still. I've put my predictions out. I think they'll win 3-0 tonight. I think they'll win easy, Spain. I really do. I think they're big favourites. They're big favourites, Spain, tonight. I think they'll win comfortably. I think they're a good team. They beat Germany 6-0 in a friendly. I know it's a friendly, but I think Spain are like Italy, perhaps, in this tournament. Not many people speaking about them for the right reasons. Maybe we should be. I don't think they'll win it, but I think it'll be. I think Callum said it'll be a bit like England into the quarters. I can't remember who said it now. Not me, Stu or Callum. Into the quarters, maybe struggle to get past the quarters. But I still think Spain. I don't think, but they've got a very good manager in Enrique as well. I don't rule them out. Spain. I think they will win tonight comfortably. I just think Sweden. I just don't think they've got anybody that really would make me scared, to be honest.
I can't see the goals though from Spain. I'm looking at their forwards now.
Torres is.
Torres is a funny one, wasn't he? He had a good, strong end to the season for City, but they've got Adama Traore in there. They've got Sarabia from PSG. He's not really set the world alight. Oyarzabal has been playing well for Sociedad. You're absolutely right. I just can't see where their goals are going to come from. And Morata, he's a 50-50 player, isn't he?
He is, definitely.
Either be on it or he won't. So, he could be. Well, obviously, Charlie, we'll know at the end of the evening, won't we, whether you're 3-0. But I just can't see where their goals are coming from. But
it's interesting. It's interesting because also no Ibrahimovic as well for Sweden. It was much expected him to go into the tournament, which would have given them a different dynamic, a great bit of experience there. Just one last thing on Sweden, Charlie. Let me stay with you, and then we'll sign off. How big is this tournament for Victor Lindelof? I made a joke about him a second ago, but could he, given a great Euros, could he show United why we don't need a new centre back this summer?
I don't think Lindelof and Maguire is ever going to. I don't think anyone's ever going to accept that that's a good enough partnership. Victor Lindelof, for me, he's a very good footballer, but he's not the sort of defender that I don't think he's dominant enough. And I think next to Maguire, he's just not. We need somebody quick. We need somebody quick and dominant next to Maguire. So I think whatever happens with Lindelof in the Euros. I think he should probably be Man United's third choice centre back You know, I don't think he should be next to Maguire, because Ollie will definitely start Maguire. Ollie will never drop Maguire. So it's always going to be Maguire and somebody else for the big games. And I think Lindelof's a good footballer, but no matter what he does in the tournament, I still think I don't think that partnership's going to work with Maguire, to be honest.
And he is right to not drop Maguire, because we live in a Maguire world. We're just all part of it. That's what it is. This is a Maguire world that we're all just a little bit part of. Whilst we're talking about the world, one more thing. Obviously, the other game is Poland v Slovakia. Looking forward to seeing what Lewandowski can do. But we have absolutely run out of time. Good luck to Scotland today. And before I say anything, happy birthday, Callum Stone. Look at you.
Thank you very much.
Age definitely does come before beauty, doesn't it? Look at that. Look at that. Happy birthday. What are you today? 51?
No, I'm 25 today.
Shut up. You're younger than me.
Yeah. 25. Tough paper round it was. Everyone says that. 25, I act like a 55-year-old man, so...
Well, we massively appreciate you, mate. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for everything you do with us, and happy birthday. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for jumping on here. One last thing for anyone out there, here's a little treat for you. Callum told me that I had to do this because it was his birthday, so thank Callum for this. I need to give you all an opportunity to get into our draw to win a Euro mystery box, thanks to the Mystery Shirt Club. All you've got to do is scroll down this page on YouTube a little bit. If you're not watching on YouTube, come to youtube.com, search All for United, find the video, go down to the comment section, so that's not the live chat, the comment section, and comment on the video with who you are predicting to win the Euros. That's a comment on the video and not a message in the live chat. Comment right down at the bottom of the video. Make sure you put in that message who you think is going to win the Euros. One of you gets an entry, so edge your bets. You can't enter more than once, and we'll pick someone after the final, immediately after that full-time whistle, to win a Euro mystery box. And who knows what shirt is going to pop up at your door. And of course, you can grab a Euro mystery shirt for your dad in time for Father's Day this weekend. Get 15% off thanks to All for United with the code BIGPOPPA15. That's BIGPOPPA 15. That's 15. Order online at themysteryshirtclub.com. Good luck, guys, in winning. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. Cheers, Charlie. Cheers, Callum. Cheers, Stu. We're going to get out of here. Stay safe, and we'll speak to you soon. Ciao for now.